Hey everyone, in this video we're going to be creating a process to not only create a user-defined type but also make sure that that user-defined type is on all of our databases that we currently have. We're going to have to do some bad things like use table variables because, well, we don't have the actual tables yet, but what this will allow us to do is classify the types of values that we store. So we're normalizing, the data itself outside of the table. We're saying we're going to create a user-defined type called name, and every time we see that, we'll know that it contains a name of some sort. So it's a very interesting thing, and hope you enjoy it.
All right, so I'm just going to drag this data type creator into doing because in this episode we'll create the single, the all databases, and the snippet. So let's just get started. All right, so I'm going to declare a variable called a data point type name, and I'll just copy it for the SQL data type and the database name. But the data point type name is something that you'll understand a little bit later when we get to developing the system database. Data point is a column in a file or a table or whatever. Data point type is part of that realm, class, family, type subject I talked about in the intro. Standard t-sql scripts, base and an execute, and then we just need to create the actual base script. So the database name coming in, I'm not going to include the prefix, so I'll just have db with a database name token. I do want to see if it exists from the sys.types table for the current database that I'm in, where the name equals UDT underscore whatever we pass in. And that UDT, user-defined type, that's our prefix for our user-defined types, just like we have prefix for everything in the system. So pretty simple, create type, UDT, and the data point type name token. From SQL data type. Got it. So pretty simple syntax. Now we just go through the motions. We want to make sure that these are not null and not empty. So the data point type name is not null / empty. Also the database name and the SQL data type. And comments are very important here because we're going to rip these comments out to create a wiki page. Oh, I meant to do is null when I was talking. We're going to rip all these comments out and create a wiki page that will document what is going on in the procedure without us needing to open up the procedure inside of SSMS to look at the definition itself. As long as we make good comments or do comments well. So standard replacing of the SQL base script. Come on there. Oh. So I have 3 of them. I have the database name, the data point type name, and the SQL data type. And I'll replace base. Actually, I'm just going to copy these, speed it up a little bit. Data point type name. And then we do this token with data type. I'll just get my quotes. And finally, database name with database name. And then we will execute it. Execute script. SP execute SQL, and that script, just remove this comma. And this is it for this procedure. So we could just copy it and create a new procedure. So paste it, do some white space cleanup, get rid of generated comments, and move our declares up top. So I'm going to do DBO PRC system object, data point type, and the data point type is a very specific thing in our system. So I'm going to create another degree called DataType, our user-defined data type, and just create single. And that should be it for our single. Now using this script, I'm just going to convert it to all databases. So I won't need the database name. I'll change this to all databases. I won't need the script. I'll actually need different variables. So I'll need database name full, because we're going to combine the database name with the database type name. Kind of like data point type. I'm going to start to program in this 4 degrees. So we don't have the database table yet, so I have to create a table variable, which I do not use in regular code because I don't want to hit the temp table. So in the series, you're going to learn a lot of techniques on how to avoid these table variables. And unfortunately, because I do not have that database table, I have to hard code values in here for now, and we'll just put it into our future rework column. And I have to hard code interface and system, but I can just copy this, paste it, add the word type, and do, main, archive, snapshot, and history for the types of databases that we have. Now I'm a huge supporter of these snippet managing tools. I'm sorry if I keep saying, DevArt SQL complete, but just I saved a cursor. I can give it the name and it fills out the rest of my cursor. Normally I use it for views, but we don't have this view yet. So str name from @database. Make sure we get our database name in here, and in our second fetch. And then we'll need another one for the database type, create type cursor. I do like to give my cursors pretty detailed names, because when we start pulling from DMVs, or the views that tell us about wait times, latches, the profiling views. I forgot what they're called. Data management? No. Man, I took my 762 and I forgot what they're called already. It'll help us isolate where these cursors are coming from. So it's very important that we be specific. Here we'll call the create type procedure. And I also have this comment, looks a little weird, accesses XX pipe XX. And this is a wiki formatted link. So because we're pulling comments from our procedure definition, I basically just have this snippet so that when we pull these comments, it'll actually allow us to click on that and go check the definition of a procedure that we called, which is actually really helpful, kind of like searching your entire system using only the wiki. So for this procedure, I want to combine the database name and the database type name. And because I'm combining them in the cursor, I always null out the variable that I'm trying to combine. So I null out database name full to combine the database name and database type name. But this looks pretty good. I'll just go ahead, refresh, and we'll run it. Let's do name. So name and varchar 100. You know what? Oop, wrong one. I didn't send database name full. Sorry about that. That's what happens when we're talking. And alter. There we go. Now let's do it. All right. refresh. There we go. So for our procedures, we're going to use generic versions of variables. So I'm going to create generic text, and this allows us to separate our procedures from our tables. And finally, I'm going to actually save this as a snippet. Because during this development, we're going to need to create types on the fly. So I'll just do create underscore data type, paste my code in here, a little formatting, and we'll save it. That's an old one. I'll use this one now. And if I wanted to create, let's say, description, I can just type that snippet out and get to it. So it really does help me save time in development. And that's about it. I mean, single procedure, all databases, and our snippet. So thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next video.